What is going on, everyone? So I have a little headphone issue right now, but it's the hot stove time here. Ryan Ripken here with you from 6 to 7. Mike is helping me produce, and look, we got a lot to kind of talk about here. Overall, there's a lot of moves happening around the MLB landscape of things, but not in Baltimore, not just yet. And overall here, the question still remains, will the Baltimore Orioles, will they make a move? And overall, it feels like things are pointing in that direction. It feels like the Baltimore Orioles will be able to make one, but time's running out. And for this Orioles team, there's no doubt that they need another big arm. So to start the show off, we're going to talk a little bit about the rumors. And then throughout the show, would love for you to join me, 410-583-1057. Call in. Let me hear your thoughts. And I know in Baltimore, a lot of people are looking for more breaking news tonight. I know if you're a Ravens fan, breaking news that Jesse Minter was just announced as the new head coach of the Baltimore Ravens. You're hoping you're hearing breaking news. The Baltimore Orioles have signed Framber Valdez, perhaps. But let's back this up for a quick moment. So for the Baltimore Orioles, the rumors are that they are interested in the frontline starting pitcher, and everyone is expecting them to make a move. And by everyone, there's some reporters out there. Bob Nightingale was one person that tweeted out saying, well, executives believe the Baltimore Orioles are going to make a push for a frontline starter. So let's just try to connect the dots here, because what's happened in the last 24 hours, Freddy Peralta, probably the biggest name that was available, in quotes, well, he's off the menu now because the New York Mets swooped in, traded for him, and now there's reports that Freddy Peralta will be extended by the Mets, or at least they are going to be looking at extension talks. And it goes back to this conversation. You trade for Freddy Peralta, a pending free agent. You have to re-sign a guy like that, or why make the trade? The Orioles saw that with Corbin Burns just a few years ago, and while it was a great 1 year with Corbin Burns, it was very short-lived. So now moving forward, Freddy Peralta, the Mets get their guy. And with that, the Mets seem to be out of the starting pitching market. Well, then just a couple hours ago, I was on the air on the Ryan Ripken show, which I was actually talking to Jordan Westberg during the time. And while I'm talking to Westy, breaking news, MacKenzie Gore, another arm that people were intrigued with. The Nationals send him to Texas for 5 prospects. And a lot of the guys, for those that are wondering what the deal entailed, it's a lot of younger prospects, guys that are mainly in A-ball. I think one guy's in AA. 5 top 20 prospects. But the thing is those prospects are probably 3-4 years away from making significant impacts, at least to what the Nationals are hoping at the big league level. So it goes to show you, for a guy like MacKenzie Gore, the Washington Nationals are looking at retooling this thing, and they're not looking at the immediate future. They're looking at years down the road. So, well, the Orioles already made a trade like that, by the way. The Orioles made a trade that was similar, I should say, when it was Shane Baz getting traded from the Rays to the Orioles. And that included a lot of young prospects. Slater DeBrun, who was the Orioles, one of their top picks this last year out of high school, he was in that deal. And yeah, the Orioles had a couple pieces that are closer to the big league level, but still had a lot of pieces that were young and had so much to still play out to see what their prospect status could be in the next 3 years. So they already made a trade like that, so it didn't feel like that was going to be the fit if that's what the Nationals truly wanted, which that's the deal that they agreed to. But now the stage is set. Which team is going to get Framber Valdez or Zach Gallen, which Zach is the next best pitcher available behind Framber on what they're going to do? And so the reason with this rumor or speculation and why I want to bring it up is that every time you hear reports there's always a dark horse team. So when I play this hypothetical game with you all for just a moment, the New York Mets were a team that was interested in starting pitching. So that was one team we always knew about, but we didn't know what the other teams could be. But now take the Mets out, because it seems like from everything we've seen, they are out now. Well, now you can have that dark horse team that no one's talking about with Baltimore, but then that really puts the Orioles in the driver's seat to land a Framber Valdez or a Zach Gallen. Now the question is going to be, will they? And if they do, what's it going to cost? Because to me, if you had said last year that you could possibly get Framber Valdez for a 3 or 4 year deal and it would be around $30 million, I'd say sign me up. I'm in. Let's do it. When can I fax over the papers? But things changed during the season, and I talked about it on Tuesday's show. Framber Valdez had a moment in Houston where he crossed up his catcher. Catcher took a ball right off the chest. It seemed intentional. And this was after a grand slam that Trent Grisham on the Yankees hit a big ball to left. That was a big moment in the game, and you could see that there was a lot of frustration. And then you're hearing this offseason that Framber Valdez at the winter meetings in Orlando was going around to prove to teams that this is not a problem. He's not a bad culture fit in a locker room. And it's kind of crazy to think about that, because before all of that, everyone looked at it as Framber Valdez getting this huge payday and cashing in. I don't know if that's the case anymore. And now the questions are going to go out there is, what's it going to take? And I got my theories. I'll give you one right now, and I'll save later on for my 2 cents at the end of the show. And I hope then for callers at the next segment, we're going to be talking about things. 410-583-1057. We're going to talk about what you guys want to discuss here a little bit, whether it is Orioles news or if you wanted to make a comment about the Ravens. I mean, they just hired their first head coach in 18 years, Jesse Minter. But if it takes 3 years to get Framber Valdez, do you make the move? Because to me, I'm looking around at all this and thinking, if it truly takes 3 years and say $100 million, that's $33 million a year. I feel like you got to make that deal. And if I'm the Orioles and that's what it takes, I would be shocked if they weren't the team that made the move. Because when you think about what the market became, Ranger Suarez, apparently it's Ron Hare Suarez. Apparently people have been pronouncing it wrong forever. I don't know, Mike. That's just, people pronounce names wrong all the time, but apparently during the press conference, that's what was happening. But Suarez signed a $26 million year deal with the Red Sox, but a couple more years. I wonder if Framber's realizing that 5 years might come at a lower AAV, average annual value, but he could cash in on a little bit more money year to year on a shorter term deal. And if you prove everyone, you bet on yourself and you prove that you're right, and whammy, you go back into the free agent period in 3 years and you got $100 million in the bag, that you could cash in once again. And that's something that he has to seriously consider. But for me, 3 years, $100 million, I'm curious if he would say yes. I think that right now, 4 years probably gets it done. A 4-year deal for Framber might certainly get it done, because teams are currently telling you they don't want to give longer deals. Now, Zach Gallen's the other option here with the Baltimore Orioles, and he is for sure going to have a short-term deal. I don't think that that's a if it happens, that's a when. Because Zach Gallen, before 2025, was going to have a huge payday himself, and then he really, really struggled last year for a multitude of reasons. But if he's a betting man and he believes that his best years are still ahead, then why not sign a shorter-term deal to get you back into it and then go make some more money? Those are the two options. Now, Framber is the more established and more consistent. Gallen's an upside, but both to me are shorter-term deals. And the one thing of why this is making sense to me is that the Orioles don't want to give out long-term pitching contracts. They don't, and I don't blame them. I don't. But if you're telling me that these pitchers would sign a 2 or 3 year deal where if something goes drastically or horribly wrong, they're off the team or they don't perform, you eat it and you move on, that seems like to me a great option here for the Baltimore Orioles. And I'll say this because we'll go to break here in just a moment. If the deal goes around 3 years, $100 million, and it's not the Orioles, I'll sit here and I'll say it right after. I would be shocked. And then there'd be some question, well, what is the plan? Because I got no doubt that this Orioles team is going to compete. But if that's the deal that can help you even bolster already a strong rotation into possibly a great or even elite, that's one that's going to ruffle some feathers. So when we come back, we'll go to the phone lines, 410-583-1057, The Fan. And also, we'll be playing some clips throughout. I talked to Jordan Westberg, all-star third baseman for the Baltimore Orioles. That's here on The Fan up until 7. We'll see you in a minute.